I want to speak on the Deion Sanders comments about the lack of representation that the lack of, I guess, representation in the draft that the HBCUs have had. I think this year only one HBCU player was drafted, and this has been an ongoing fight for a while now. And I heard what Shannon Sharp said, and I will admit that I was with Shannon Sharp, because Shannon Sharp pretty much said, you know, most of the first round was or I think the 9 out of the 10 or all 10 of the first round picks. I think 9 of the 10 were African American, or top 10 picks. 9 of the 10 were African American, and it's a talent thing. If you're talented, the NFL will find you, or a league will find you. I was with Shannon Sharp. And I will say I am with Shannon Sharp on that side. But something hit me like a ton of bricks. Actually, before I started recording this episode. The fight isn't an African American thing. The fight isn't trying to advance African Americans. Because as we know, African Americans dominate sports. This is a fight for HBCUs, which is actually one of the biggest reasons why I wore my alma mater. I went to Voorhees, actually it's Voorhees University now, Denmark, South Carolina, a smaller HBCU, but shouts out to the Voorhees Tigers. I played college basketball there for 2 years, 3 years. One of the best experiences of my life, being at a HBCU. And that's actually the main reason why I wore this today. I understand it now. Because, and I get Shannon Sharp, man. I understand, and which Shannon Sharp did go to HBCU, but Shannon Sharp is looking at this from a talent perspective. And that's how I've been looking at it. I've been looking at it as, well, if they're talented enough, they're going to be seen, because the NFL wants the best product. And if the best players are in HBCU, they're going to go there. But no, this is for HBCUs. And imagine it like this. There was an argument a couple years ago when Zion was in college and thinking about going to a HBCU, or people were saying, could Zion be dropped, or could Zion go to Howard University? And a lot of people, including myself, was saying no, because they don't have the resources to carry a player as big as Zion Williamson and everything that he comes with, as far as the fanfare, the popularity, the coverage. They just don't have the means to sustain that. However, on the flip side, I think about, what if Zion Williamson chose a HBCU? Well, that means that there'll be more resources. That means that there'll be more funding, more money. Because kind of like how you have to you have to have the capacity to hold a player like Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson does bring a lot of opportunity to an organization. Same thing goes for the NFL draft. Imagine Howard getting 3 or 4 draft picks, kind of like Georgia. Now, again, it's never going to be that, but imagine FAMU having 3 draft picks and go to the league, or Grambling State, or Jackson State, or Voorhees. Well, Voorhees doesn't have a football team, but Howard, Florida Atlantic, Virginia Union, South Carolina State, I understand now. My eyes were closed to it, and I was really only looking at it through the sports realm. But I understand, and I agree wholeheartedly with what Deion Sanders is actually saying, is that there is such an importance to HBCUs and HBCUs on the African American community. And honestly, even though quiet is kept and not a lot of people want to talk about it, HBCUs have affected the world in such a major way. A lot of the great African American just people went to an HBCU. And it's very important for the success of an HBCU. And it's unfortunate that they're missing on the opportunities because they just don't get the look. I understand it. And again, I'm not here bashing and saying that Shannon Sharp was wrong either. I understand it. But when Shannon Sharp failed to understand and look at it just like I failed, so it's not just him, is the academic side and the fact of you saying that you had 4 or 5 kids get drafted does something to funding, does something to just the look of your school. Now you're going to have more people come. Now you're going to have a better program. Now you're going to have more funding for a program, for a football program or for a basketball program or whatever. If you say, well, my program or our program sent 5 people to the league, sent 6 people to the league. Georgia had Georgia had about 7 or 8 people go in the first 3 rounds, I think. Now, no, I understand Georgia just won a national championship. I understand that, and we're talking. But imagine if that was Grambling State. Imagine if that was imagine that was Bowie State. How that would drastically increase the just the revenue of the school, the attendance, the funding. Because think about it, you never hear about a major school, a large school having to deal with half the stuff Howard University deals with, as far as plumbing and funding and not so ideal living situations. I'm sure that would change if you look up and 4 people have been drafted to the league from Howard. Now, I'm not an expert at this, obviously. I'm just an HBCU graduate who played college basketball there and have a podcast. But I see exactly what Deion Sanders is saying. And for people that's calling, or people that's saying that Deion Sanders can't be the guy to say this because he left an HBCU to coach for Colorado, which is a PWI. All I would say to those people is this: what is the goal? When you're doing anything, what is the goal? Or let me say this, when you're thinking about leaving somewhere, what is the goal? The goal is always to leave something. If you're going to leave something better than it was when you found it. Jackson State was one of the worst schools, was one of the worst HBCUs as far as attendance, as far as the football program. They were one of the worst when Deion Sanders got there. When Deion Sanders left, they're one of the best. He has found more funding. Their football team is widely recognized as one of the best HBCU football teams, or was when he was there. Recruiting class went up. Graduating class went up. it's like people are so. It's like, think about your job. If a competitor called you and said, "Hey, we'll pay you $100,000 more to do the same exact thing that you're doing at the current job," you wouldn't take it? What I'm saying is this, man. I understand that the NFL, I think, holds a combine just for HBCUs, I believe, and shouts out to them for that. But kind of like the Rooney Rule, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't bold results. And as we've seen, it really hasn't bolded. It hasn't really had results. Because you can't tell me I've played. Now, again, there's been people on my basketball team that I know is good enough to not only play for PWI, but to play. One of my teammates currently is I think averaging like 30 points overseas. You're telling me he wasn't good enough to play in a PWI? You're telling me I don't know if he's good enough to, but you're telling me he's not good enough to be in the G League? What I'm saying is this. And I feel like I'm talking in circles, so I'll just finish it with this. I understand what Deion Sanders is saying, and I am with Deion Sanders is saying there needs to be more eyes and more opportunity for the next level when we talk about HBCUs, because it doesn't seem like there has been. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.